just have a yes or no answer to the question of whether or not you think
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh wow, they're all straight up ultimate. Like
now I feel like I'm being mean.
Yeah, but it's fine.
Like I'm worried about it.
I'm gonna get started for roll call.
Now we know what you want for your birthday. Sorry.
And I'm calling this meeting to order at time. Does someone have the time? 8:02. Thank you. Cool.
Hey, y'all. So my name is Ayo, and ideal birthday gift. I guess it's gonna sound so cheesy, but like people who are really down for I don't know, creating a political psychology major is really hard. And I'm trying to use Stanford stuff, but anyone who's down for political psychology, and that's I'm asking y'all right now, if anyone's down for political psychology, please let me know. It's the best thing ever. It's what's your birthday? So if y'all, please let me know.
Sit lolly. I'm not saying sit lolly. Stay off in a bit. Yeah.
We'll depend on the person, but I think spending a nice time with someone, or if it's someone you don't really like that much, it's like an item. Really nice. An item. Could be a rock or something.
Alright. Okay. Bella is not here. Natasha.
My ideal. Oh, hello. Wait. Do we introduce ourselves still?
What's that?
Do we introduce ourselves? Or just
If you want to say whatever you want to do.
I'm just gonna answer the question.
Cool.
Okay. I think my ideal birthday gift. It sounds really vain, but we'll let it slide. I really would like someone to purchase my entire cart off for 3 people and just buy it. So if anyone would like to.
And you stepped out. Ryan. Okay. Alexandrina. Lee.
Hey, my ideal birthday gift would be travel.
Where specifically?
Now that's a tough question. I would say the next place I want to go is somewhere in South America, so maybe Brazil.
Jonathan, Tommy, Sal.
My ideal birthday gift is probably a good handphone.
Sila, Regina. Do you want to answer the question of what your ideal birthday gift is?
Yeah, I think a lot of
Sydney.
Probably a trip somewhere.
Sona. Okay.
Maybe if someone baked me like a cake, and I wanted a specialized cake, then it would be
Can you get that? You alright?
My name's Eric. I'm probably going to be subbing in for favorite birthday gift, probably food.
Yes. I like gifts that are handmade, but that I want, like a nice pair of very nicely knitted fuzzy socks would be really nice. Yeah. That was not supposed to be a dig on your socks. I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't taken that way. No.
Just really like socks, so. Yeah.
Josh will be in a bit. Motion. Go be in a bit. Owen. Yeah.
I really like getting Barnes & Noble gift cards because if you just give me money, there's no way to justify spending it on hard copy books, which I really like having.
Francisco, Chase, Michelle.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Brittany. Let's go for it. Probably the best birthday present would be a sushi dinner.
Jessica, Akati, and Stephen.
Best birthday gift is like getting my whole family like a legit house.
Nate,
Probably just spending time with friends.
Sam, Shania, Robert, Kayla, Sean.
I gotta say soccer for stuffed animals.
Awesome.
What was the question?
Your ideal birthday gift.
Probably a car part.
Jake,
Permanent end to porn struggles and a new pair of socks for you.
Santi. Alright. Moving into the approval of today's agenda, the projector will be in a bit. Does everyone have a way of looking at today's agenda? Would you honestly share on today's agenda?
I would love that.
Okay. Do you feel comfortable sharing your email sometimes, everybody?
Excuse me? I'm
You,
sorry.
you, oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Yeah. Alright. So for now, here's a copy of today's agenda that you're going to. Okay. I need to make a slight change in that I will be talking about the Career Center referendum instead of job options, just because they weren't able to make it. That's the only thing. I'll change that as soon as I get the computer back when they're shared. But other than that, any motions regarding tonight's agenda? You'll see that with Stefan's help, it's kind of decked out, which much thanks goes to Stefan on that. Alright. I would love some motions regarding tonight's agenda. Yeah, David?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Thank you. I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda made by David, seconded by Anna. Probably should have taken a form check in that moment. Did not do that. Just gonna count real quick.
This looks pretty good.
It does. Okay, so we do not have quorum. There are a lot of people in that meeting that I just came from that are part of this space and should be here soon. So I'm not worried about making quorum later on tonight. That does mean we can't approve a motion without quorum. Yeah, thank you. Cool. I'll be taking staff for announcements. I have an announcement, which is just last week's Business Islamic Awareness Month flyer shared on the group folder. There's still events yet to come for that flyer, so make sure to go to those. They sound really cool.
I have an announcement, yeah. So the dinner that we're planning for the SUA and college constituents, we're trying.
Almost.
Okay, awesome. We are planning a dinner and we've secured a final date. It's going to be June 1st. That's a Saturday, I believe, right? That's a Saturday, and that's the ideal date because we'll be able to have all friends and constituents in week 9, so it shouldn't be too close to finals. But if that works for everybody, we're going to be aiming for June 1st at 6 to like 8, 9 p.m. And we haven't really like finalized the specific theme, but I think it's going to be kind of like just like if you have like a semi-attire kind of go. And also, if you don't have any semi-formal attire, our office wants to help, and because we want to make sure that everyone, especially when they graduate, has certain attire to be able to interview for jobs and stuff. So if you actually don't have any attire, this is an opportunity to get kind of an attire from us, and we will connect you all in different ways to that. So look out for that. If people want a costume party, it can be, but like y'all just have to like tell us what you want because we won't know what you want until you tell us.
For your definition, when is this?
June 1st. Yeah. It's looking from 6 to 8:30ish.
Saturday.
Huh?
Saturday.
Oh, Saturday. Yeah.
You got plans?
Budget committee. Last Friday we had a budget committee, but I was the only one over there. So we're gonna have another budget committee this Thursday, and I wish y'all can be there. It's gonna be really fun. This time we're gonna change the budget committee to a different way. It's gonna be kind of like a survey style budget committee, so y'all can all have like part of your idea into the budget. Thank you. Oh, it's gonna be start from 4:30 p.m. and I think it's gonna take like 1 to 2 hours, but it won't take like more than 2 for sure. Yeah, thank you.
Pride is on Saturday, so that's a thing we do every year. We're kind of excited about it. Pride, okay, if you want to be in the Pride March, we're meeting at the Quarry at noon. There is a DRC van accommodation to take you to each of the stops at each of the colleges, but if you want to walk with us, it is a walk around campus. It's pretty strenuous. And then the festival begins at Cresty Lower Street just after 2.
I have an additional announcement after so.
Next week on the 18th is the Multicultural Festival from 12 to 6 at the School of Line. There's going to be a lot of performances, a lot of food. It's a collaborative effort between a lot of student organizations, so I hope to see you all.
My announcement is, this Thursday in the Quarry, from 5 to 7 p.m. we will have a Meet the Candidates event where if you go and talk to candidates, you can get a free visit cookie company cookie. And then next Wednesday, I believe at 7 p.m., location still TBD, we will be doing a candidate debate. Yes?
Is the event this Thursday 4 to 7 or 5 to 7?
I believe so. That we will be the same.
Presentation from the January orientation was 4 to 7.
Yeah.
So I took a picture, it was 4 to 7. So
I want to make it fun.
that's please actually, yeah, that'd be fine because I have a midterm before.
Did I say 4 to 7? So as of right now, it is 4 to 7 until further notice. I apologize, that's 4 to 7 on the candidate event this Thursday. Okay. Any additional announcements or public comments? Alright, seeing none, we are still 1 short of quorum. So, are you here as a alternate? No. Okay.
Regina and 2 other folks will be headed here in the next 5 minutes. I hope so.
We should have one later in the meeting. We just want to formulate now. So I'm going to go into. I will copy paste a link onto the agenda, and I'm going to be talking about what that link is. The link, it's a different link than the link in the agenda title, but both are relevant to the conversation. So that link is now on the agenda. If you go to that link, it will take you to the Career Center website. On there is the Measure 70 tab on the left. That's what we will be talking about. The official language of Measure 70 is what's linked in the hyperlink in the title, if you'd like to reference that as well. Additionally, in winter quarter, we had a presentation from the Career Center. I believe that should be the last meeting of winter quarter in that folder. Basically, Career Center, they weren't able to come tonight, but they are seeking an endorsement by SUA. And so that's something just for me to collect any questions that you may have right now and turn it over to the Career Center or to, so that we can vote on this endorsement next week. And they've offered to come in next week to answer the questions.
So is there a point of endorsing next week, or is the ballot will already be sent out by Sunday night, I presume? So where's the endorsement or show up on the ballot? So
it doesn't. So voting, just to reiterate, is May 13th to May 22nd. Next week's meeting is May 14th. So voting will already be underway. Endorsement can use the campaign though. Like on campaign materials, it can say endorsed by the SUA. And we, as a representative body of the undergraduate students here, when we endorse something, that means that we think that all undergraduate students, or that we think that undergraduate students should vote for it, and we're endorsing it on behalf of undergraduate students, as is the nature of our body. So that's kind of to answer those questions. Yeah.
So just to clarify, if an endorsement is made before next week, does it appear on the ballot?
If we make an endorsement next week, I can let the Career Center know by the next day, so that May Wednesday the 15th. And then if they put any new campaign materials between the 15th and the 22nd, as campaign is ended, that could contain endorsed by SU.
I know, like, if we were to endorse something tonight, would that then appear on the ballot?
No, endorsements do not appear on the ballot.
Thanks.
Yeah. When I say the ballot, I mean when you go to the elections website and you're looking through the options, you won't see the measure and then you can endorse by SU. It's more for campaign purposes. And also for resource sharing. So if we endorse them, then they can also use SUA resources for it. If there are no additional questions, I can pull up the presentation and give you the exact date that is under. This is stuff I can also revisit with the projector later on if that interests any of you all. Again, it's going to be the 12th of March folder. Additional questions? Alright, seeing no, moving on to the next agenda item. Yes.
We're not voting on this tonight?
No, because we it gets blocked to us one week and then we vote on it the next. However, we could suspend the bylaws if you wanted to vote on it tonight. If you feel especially passionate about it.
I feel like it doesn't have a purpose to vote on endorsing any measure next week because everyone's already starting to vote. So we should do that all tonight at some point when we have forum.
Okay. Yes, Dick?
I agree with the previous speaker, and I think regardless of how you feel about this measure itself, I think that we should do everything we can to encourage the process that they utilize, which I think is extremely thorough and cognizant of student feedback.
Thank you.
my computer is just letting me set up the
So this item is fine here again. What is next after this? What's that? Oh, yeah, yeah. You can also talk about SUA. What is best? Okay, so we have Alright, so we have a quorum now. Okay, I really appreciate y'all bearing with me in this kind of slow start to the meeting. So, we are going to go back to the agenda now. Y'all here with me and kind of understanding what we're doing. So, because we just got one, now going back to the agenda, and we're taking motions about the agenda. Yes, Stephen?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve the agenda made by Stephen. Second by Anna. Are there any objections? Seeing no objections, the motion passes. Okay. Cool. We'll now be moving to approval of previous meeting minutes. So I guess we don't actually, technically we're not going to be including the minutes in the emergency meeting because they're not, we didn't have a quorum, so I guess they weren't like minutes because it wasn't an official meeting, they were like notes. But I would still love to understand what approval from y'all or any feedback on that about something to change. So starting with the minutes from April 30th, 2019, should be in both the shared folder and hyperlinked on the agenda. Are there any, again, is anyone having trouble accessing these online resources? Cool.
Motion to approve April 30th.
I have a motion by Yuki to approve the minutes from April 30th. Second by Cameron. Are there any objections? Alright, seeing none of those minutes are approved. Really, y'all look at the attendance on that though, because I didn't complete attendance in my notes, so I did it based off of that schedule. Cool, but seeing no issues, cool, it's already approved. Okay. If there is an issue with attendance later, please feel free to come talk to me. Any motions regarding the emergency meeting minutes of May 2nd, this past Thursday? Yes, we still have 3 minutes. I motion to approve last Thursday's minutes. Second by Cameron. Are there any objections?
I have quite a bit.
Yeah.
My PP's down, but I can't find the minutes.
They're in separate, so they should be hyperlinked on the agenda. But if you can't find them there, they're also in a separate folder that I made for the meeting on Thursday. Okay. Going now, we all had nothing for the comments. UCSU Recreation Department under that. Are you all able to present now? Here on behalf of UCSU Recreation Department. Okay.
Right, a second.
This now work?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, I want to ask your flow. We don't have a projector date.
We don't.
Okay.
Do you have this one? Okay.
That's okay. We have a presentation.
I
I've
will-
sent it to both of you already, and so you can put it in your file.
We'll forward it. And then I will be so.
If you want us to sit here,
Wherever you feel comfortable.
okay. My name is Natalie. I'm a fourth-year politics and history major. I've been working as a director for the last 4 years, and I'm here with my coworker to talk to you about what is going on with the recreation department as it relates to the administration and
Augustine Donovan. I'm a second-year economics and math major, and I've been working for the rec for 1 year now. And I think really the question right now is like, why are we here? Why are we on this agenda? So basically, the recreation department is under threat of not being a department on this campus in the long term. The there's a miscellaneous review going on right now, which are basically the funds that run the programs. If you wanted to do any recreation trip, the money that comes from a student have been rejected and is going through the appeals process from them. Basically, the recreation department next year, right now, all the activities will be free. But the department is a revenue generating department, and so if they cannot charge the prices that they've always charged, they will go bankrupt and the department will not exist the following academic year. So we're here to voice about the sustainability of this department as a serious issue and are asking for your support.
So, do people know who the recreation department is? Kind of, yeah. Okay, so the recreation department services almost 11,000 people every single year. It's undergraduates, it's graduates, faculty, international students, other organizations here on campus. And it's led predominantly by a diverse group of student leaders. So what do? We go on adventure outings, we have boating classes and clubs, we have classes and workshops, wilderness medicine, kayaking, scuba club, and a wilderness orientation program that happens 3 times throughout the summer. Our classes and workshops are anything from CPR to how to cook gnocchi or how to pole dance, and that's every class that we offer. We offer classes about Reiki and alternative medicines and just experiential programs that allow for the diversification of our knowledge. It's mainly focused on self-care, which is one of our principles in community. Where do we go on our adventure outings? We go to California's front and back country, our mountains, our waterways, our state and national parks, and we try to make accessible California and Santa Cruz as a whole. But what does that mean? What are we actually standing for? How do we relate to the student body? So we, in addition to the UC Santa Cruz Principles of Community, have our own principles of community. One being caring, to diversify, to be just, disciplined, celebratory, open, and purposeful. We stand for, our mission statement is the same as the mission statement of the UCs. We stand to empower leaders, we stand to teach about leadership, we stand to make accessible nature. We try to open the experience up for people who may or may not have had access to camping or the outdoors as children. We try to celebrate the cosmos and the world that we live in. We try to teach healthy practices and how to be integrative. So how do we approach leave no trace? How do we approach preserving California's lands? How do we be stewards of our communities at large? The majority of our participants are female. Our ethnicity of participants is the same ratio breakdown as the one offered by the UC Santa Cruz website of the number of participants and peoples that happen to be at this campus of this year. But I guess the better question is, like, why are we here and what does the recreation department mean to the community of Santa Cruz? The rec is a space of empowerment, inclusivity, and community. We had a meeting tonight and people were asked to give one word about what the rec meant to them. And so many people, overwhelmingly, an empowerment, leadership, opportunity. And if you would have seen just how many people were sitting in this tiny room to come together to tell the rest of the community in Santa Cruz and the administration just what this experience meant to them, you would all be moved. It's the nucleus of my college experience, coming to this place. And I didn't find a community my freshman year. And a lot of people don't find their communities freshman year. And I can tell you, every single one of the leaders has said to me in an email expressing 3 to 5 sentences like the recreation department gave them purpose. It gave them a space where they could find who it is that they were, to find who it is that their leadership style meant to them and how it related to their experience growing up culturally, religiously. How did it mean for them politically? How did it mean for them in terms of their future career? And so we're a community that services the larger community. We have participants that aren't just faculty members or undergraduates or graduate students. We service people in the community of Santa Cruz in general. We give opportunity to local businesses and local enterprises and nonprofit organizations to come and work with our student body.
Is this video at presentation?
Yeah, that's fine. That's awesome. And ultimately, if you have the chance to go and backpack in Big Sur or go river rafting, learn how to do CPR or how to make your own essential oils, how to put all of your essential oils into a serum that would make your face feel like it's glowing, or to feel the power of meditation, or what it meant to pole dance, or what it meant to boat, to learn the systems of the sea, or to go kayaking and see the diverse wildlife that we have in our ecosystem right in Conner Bay. I would tell you right now that it adds dimensionality to the human and college experience. You have access to different forms of knowledge. You have access to different forms of community and compassion that allow for the human mind to expand. And when the human mind expands, the human heart expands. And you have access to people that you may or may not have crossed paths with on a recreation trip in the backcountry in the Sierras. You have no other choice but to form a community. And in today's society, when community is being sacrificed left and right, when our access to preserving our natural spaces, when we talk about our civic society and democracy, all of those things come to fruition in the recreation department. Being stewards of the college experience, being stewards of human development and character development is what we come to foster every single trip. And so what we can do about it right now is letting the administration know and communicating the importance of programs that enrich the student body and ensure their commitment to student organizations that allow for people to come together, that foster an experience that can't be found in a classroom. The part of the UCSC's mission statement is to foster different forms of knowledge. And as much as the university is a research institution and is trying to produce and acquire more enterprises to disseminate that research, we also are a place in our lives and in the world where we need to focus on taking care of ourselves. We need to learn how to take care of other people. We need to learn how to take care of our environment. We need opportunities and spaces to figure out who the heck we are, to challenge our values, to come into contact with new people, to have the opportunity to find things within us that we might not have been able to find in a classroom, particularly courage. I think that that's one of the biggest aspects. Because what else do you have when you are rafting down a Fox 3 River, or trying to scale a rock in Pinnacles National Park, or backpacking and lugging 70 pounds for your first month? It's courage. And we have to have courage to pursue everything in our lives. And even though it's not necessarily academically oriented, it's a space in the world where we have the chance to discover these things in the company of friends. And so ultimately what we're asking SUA at this point in time is letters of endorsement for our program and for other student organizations, and just to solidify that we as a student body are not going to sacrifice opportunities and programs that allow and diversify and enrich the experience of our lives here in college. We'd also appreciate if each of the colleges' senates supported that letter and wrote an additional letter saying just that as well, that they find in their communities that this is important, and that we together as a student body are going to stand together to ensure that programs and communities in Santa Cruz are not going to be sacrificed. Yeah.
Can you clarify what happened that caused this funding issue? I wasn't exactly clear on what that was.
Okay.
So, every year, the recreation department is funded through student referendums and miscellaneous fees. The referendum are there, but the miscellaneous fees help subsidize those costs for how much really kayak trip or surfing trip. The fees that students pay when they go to take those classes are the ending of a mountain of costs that go on those programs. So the miscellaneous fees get approved every year and just get passed. This year, they got rejected from the directors of programs. We don't have clear answers of what happened this year from the last year. There's a new director. Values could be changing in OPERS.
Values could be changing in the miscellaneous and course fee advisory committee. There are a number of things that have been happening here, but in the 2016-2017 budget of the entire university, OPERS got $33 million, and the recreation department, I guess actually Campus Life got $33 million, and OPERS and recreation got $6.3 million, which is about 8.3% of the budget. And that is divided up by 1% being from general funds, which comes from tuition or scholarship programs or grants. 15% of that comes from self-sufficient funding, so outside sources, donors, major donors usually like providing to that specific entity, and then 83% of that came from student fees, miscellaneous fees. And so what this happens is that we submit paperwork to make sure that our fees that we charge for people to go on a trip or to do a class stay low enough for students to be able to afford them, but allow for us to generate a profit so that we can continue to offer that. And this isn't some profit where we're trying to make hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions. It's not a for-profit industry. It's just that the way that the recreation department is set up in OPERS is that we can't exist if we don't make any money. And that's not by our own choice, that's just by the design of OPERS in the recent years. Because if you would have had this program, when we had this program 3 years ago, it wasn't a for-profit, like a for-profit enterprise. It was that we were delineated funding from the university, the business and administrative services, and that covered our costs and kept our fees low enough that there was an inclusivity that reached like a much greater percentage of the population. So right now, the issue is that we are going to have all of our funding reduced so that our costs of participation will be null, essentially, maybe $5, maybe $10, and then the issue is that that's wonderful. We'd love if all of our students could go on a surfing class for $5, but that would mean that the subsequent years for 2020 to 2021, we would no longer be able to operate because we'd be operating in a deficit. And so our sister program, ELP, is currently operating in a deficit. And the Business and Administrative Services Chancellor said to in an email that because they're operating in a deficit, that it's no longer sustainable. So therefore, they won't be offering the program anymore. And so if we allow for our program to operate in deficits, which would happen if the miscellaneous fees were not approved, then our program would no longer exist.
So at the heart of your question that we haven't got answers to is why? What has happened this year that what has always happened suddenly has gotten better? And we have not got a question, or we have not got an answer to that why.
I did want to add, thank you both for being here. So I think when it comes to this recreational department as well, I don't know if y'all all remember, but they're the same department that hosted the SUA retreat on Saturday. SUA officer retreat, which allowed us to restart and be a lot more proactive in the SUA. So I really give props to this department that really allowed for the SUA and for our awesome advisor, Dominique, to be setting all these really important variables up to allow us to have such a proactive year. So I'm in full support for whatever y'all create that supports this department. I'm also interested in and seeing what the actual students on the miscellaneous and administrative fees on the committee, what they are saying. They should be under SCOC, the student committee on committees, which is chaired by the internal vice presidents and all the who's not here today, but you can email them at SUA, DPI, and UCC.edu. And I'd love to hear why certain decisions were made. I heard that there were some rumors about, again, them trying to focus more on sports and increasing the quality of sports at UCSC, but again, that wasn't talked about, with the SUA or with any kind of representative body of the students, that they shouldn't be making those kind of decisions. Whether you agree or not with the department, those decisions cannot be made without the student voice saying, okay, you know what, yes, we do want to let this program go, or maybe we don't want to let it go. That's the issue with UCSC. They continuously make decisions for students and act like we do not exist.
And, I'm sorry, and just to say, like, it's not that we're coming here as an anti-sport, like, we certainly believe that all communities here at UC Santa Cruz deserve a place and are to be supported by our administration. Our administration is not the ones who are the benefactors, and they are not the recipients of their actions. We are. We firmly believe that OVERS as a whole community, sports, recreation, any community on this campus has a place and should be solidified, and it's not the administration's place to defer or legitimize one community or another. And it's not the place of the administration to leverage communities against each other. In 2015 and 2016, we had to vote to keep our sports, and I think that it's important to remember that that principle of community is at the heart of what Santa Cruz is. We come and make space for other people who may or may not have had space before, but just because we're making more space for everybody else doesn't mean that we have to diminish anybody else's space. It means that we need to come together as a community of one, that we might have our differences, but we all deserve to exist and coexist, because that's what this is. That's what we're all about, That's what our diversity stands for, So
That same year in 2015-2016, the rec department had 11,521 participants on this campus. We had 11,000 participants. We are the largest rec department in the whole UC system. We're Santa Cruz. We have the ocean over there, we have the mountain behind us. To go from that to non-existent would be a shame. And I see familiar faces from that day for PLP. If you have never done a rec program before, you have the opportunity. It adds to your college experience, and that's what I think is at the heart of this too. If a student doesn't have an option to go to university and take a surfing class, to go kayaking, to go backpacking, even if you've never done that, to have the opportunity and it's right down the East Field, that's what I think we do. That's why it's important. And that's that.
So we are out of time for this agenda item. I have 4 people left on staff.
Motion to extend time by 7 minutes.
I have a motion to extend time by 7 minutes made by Devon, seconded by Lauren. Are there any objections?
Yeah, we just have a very tight agenda tonight, and I think we should move that.
So we'll be now moving into a vote. All those in favor of extending time by 7 minutes, please raise your hand and pocket. I have 19 in favor. All those opposed? Opposed. I have 3 opposed. The motion passes. If someone else on the agenda item. Before we get into that, are y'all okay with, are y'all okay if we spend a little more minutes on this? Do you have heart out? Okay. Cool. I have Cameron next on staff.
So I guess I have 2 short questions. When did y'all ask for an answer, and how long is it taking for them to get back to you? And do they not have a plan to increase the revenue so it sustains long term?
I asked last week, and I got an answer on Friday, and basically they said it's still under review. And then I got a follow-up email yesterday that said it's still in conversation. And so the actual deadline for all of these is July 1st, but they want to have the program set by the end of May. So they want all of these answers before they go into June, which is their review process and their auditing process of this past year. for other programs, more academic.
Point of information. Who are you emailing?
I emailed Sarah Latham, and
Have you talked to Lucy Van Dorn yet, or Dorn?
she also sent me an email yesterday after I asked her for the names and members of the committee and if I could speak to them in person about the actual issues at hand to garner clarity, and she sent me a nuanced email back saying it's still under review, we're still talking about it, but it's not sustainable and we need to change this.
So you should reach out to the SBAC chair, and I can give you that contact right after the meeting or before the meeting. SBAC members are the ones that sat on the miscellaneous, and those are the student representatives.
Yeah, I have their emails, so I was
Okay.
going to send them an email.
Have you emailed Ashley yet?
No.
Okay, I would do that, because then we can go in our meeting and say like, hey, this is a conversation we're having. And then we can like move forward and pressure Lucy in that way.
Okay, thank you so much.
Trace, I have you next on staff.
That's all I had to say.
Did that answer your questions?
Yeah. You already said, or I think I said, talk to the internal affairs office. I just got hired as their intern, so we have more power to do stuff.
Oh, okay.
I'm not being used that much right now, so I can help you guys.
I would really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like just what Augie's saying is that we want to know why this year. And if it's not a sustainable program, then let's fix it. You know, we have some of the brightest minds at this university. We have some of the most engaged citizens and bodies of knowledge possible. So we should fix it. We should make efforts to address budget deficits or sustainability issues. We should be able to do this. And it shouldn't be at the sacrifice to other people or to communities at large, you know? I mean,
Okay. So I may have missed this, but Measure 68 was supposed to fund part of the recreation aspect of ours as well. Did they tell you where that portion of the money went? Because if I'm not mistaken, it should have been $2 million something, and then it was supposed to be split between overs maintaining the facility, the recreation department, and NCAA sports.
yeah, so that budget is actually sustaining our programs with EOP and allows for kids to go on trips
Yeah, with the
free.
loans.
So that's pretty much what we dedicate all of that money to, because we believe that accessibility to the environment and our natural lands, or wild and scenic lands, and our BLM lands is important. And it also fosters community for groups especially at risk of not necessarily being able to continue here or might not have had access to the environment prior to this because of cost or location, regardless. So we spend the majority of the 68 budget just offering not just even scholarships, but trips to 10 to 15 students at EOP to Bridge every single quarter, 2-3 times a quarter. And that includes, it's all encompassing. It includes their gear, it includes their tea, it includes their food, their transportation, the campsites, or whatever it is that we do.
Yeah, I was supposed to go on
You should go. You totally should.
Oh, I'm cool. So I guess the follow-up question is, have you talked to, I'm trying to remember the head of
Sue?
Yeah.
She doesn't want to.
She's the one that rejected miscellaneous needs.
Oh, Sue.
Yeah.
If you constantly bust, because before Sue, it was, I don't even remember. But before Sue, there was someone else, and they didn't want to increase the budget for NCAA sports, and that's where Measure 68 came from originally. So if you constantly bug Sue and you CC people and you throw it in see on no price, once people start getting bad, especially the numbers start doing things. But because I know overs, I'm all the money is.
To be fair, we have money, but it's also $6.7 million, and that's divided between the maintenance of facilities, intramural sports, NCAA sports, and right. And so it garners an incredible amount of attention because of NCAA sports, but also it's split between so many different divisions just within OPERS that our budget itself is relatively small hence the necessity for the miscellaneous fees to help us sustain our own selves without taking away fees from student athletes or from the OPERS facilities or the classes that OPERS offers like Fit Life or the yoga classes or the PE classes.
I think aside from talking administration, it would be very important to show the student bodies behind all of this and making sure that it continues and it doesn't come to a deficit. So I think that we would be drafting a resolution by the end of this month as well, just to make sure and support by the SUA. So all of that.
If we draft a resolution, it goes to you, to this committee?
Yes.
Okay.
If you each of this step and I, we can help you with the drafting as well. I can send you all a follow-up email after the meeting is over, but I'll give you some potential next steps.
We really appreciate you all taking the time to listen to us. We all appreciate your questions. We appreciate your concern, whatever pushback you have. Honestly, like, these are forms of dialogue that have to happen, and tough questions have to be asked, and values have to be questioned, and administration has to be questioned. And so I really appreciate you guys just sitting here and allowing us to say our piece and to say our, like, what is in our hearts and the importance of this community. And so thank you all for your undivided attention. We genuinely appreciate this, and we're really appreciative of all the work that you do for the UCSD community at large.
I think we both, in a way, do the same thing. We both serve the student body, and that's what we appreciate. Maybe we just do it in different capacities. The rec department has EOP trips, we have international specialized trips, we have graduate student trips, we have veterans special trips, and we go just undergrads in general. So thank you for that.
So we are out of time again. I have nobody on staff. Cool. You all have the floor if you are ready to is there a document?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes. I put it on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
We're going to have to read it out loud for your convenience, if that's okay.
Hold on, I'm gonna just pull it up so we have it on the screen. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. I'm Cikladi. My pronouns are they, Sabina, she's her.
William.
Fatima, she, her. Rose, she, her. So we're here to present today about the establishment of a labor commission under SUA. So we're going to start with history, overview, and creation. It's the first section on the doc that y'all can open up at your laptops and have fun.
Is this resolution in opposition to the proposed affiliation?
No.
No.
It's above.
Oh, thank you.
Presentation and vote list for.
it's the one I most recently emailed you on.
Okay, thank you. If it's the wrong one, I can look into it. Yeah.
I think that's the right one. Yeah.
Yes, cool.
Cool. All right, thank you. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, of course. So, with inspiration from, but not the same as, student organizers at UC San Diego, we are declaring the establishment of a labor commission in which students may organize in conjunction with AFSCME 3299 to bridge the intentional disconnection between students and workers in an act of solidarity against the attacks and injustices perpetrated and enacted by the UC and from our fellow administration in order to make meaningful changes in the treatment and compensation of Black and Latinx employees, among others, represented by AFSCME 3299 and other unions and labor justice entities. And there's a link to the San Diego resolution if y'all want to see that. Also, with inspiration from, but not the same as, student organizers at UC Merced, where the Labor Commissioner is a newly established branch of the external office of ASUCM that strive to build relationships with all workers and communities on campus, along with being the student representative to the active unions on campus, AFSCME 3299 and UAW Local
2865, helping assist in actions in building community with our union workers, and there's a link to use the Merced's resolution. Hereby so be resolved that the Labor Commission is now established with a commissioner who is not an intern under the Vice President of External Affairs EVP office. The EVP does not have power over the Labor Commission, Labor Commissioner, or decisions made by the Labor Commission. The EVP's relationship to the Labor Commission is to ensure the success of the Labor Commission by supplying the Labor Commission with the resources necessary for the powers written below.
This commission will establish its own bylaws, which will then be approved by the SUA by a simple majority vote of 50% plus one. Although the Labor Commission is needed in its current climate, if deemed unnecessary in the future by the DSU and by the Labor Commission by a 2/3 majority vote, the Labor Commission and thus the Labor Commissioner will become obsolete and will be dissolved.
Number 2, composition of the Labor Commission and the Labor Commission position. The Labor Commission will consist of members from WSSD, USAS, Local 501. Within the local commission, there will be a Labor Commissioner who will be appointed by PSU prior to the end of the Supreme Court in order to begin their position officially on July 1st, since it will be a year-long position. The Labor Commissioner will receive a stipend and compensation for their work as Labor Commissioner of no less than the amount that interns receive, which is currently $3,600. This stipend will increase if interns pay increases. The Labor Commission will be impeached if the Labor Commission receives find that they do not have the Labor Commission's best interest in mind, and is possibly done by a simple majority vote, 50% plus 1. Should the Labor Commissioner be unable to attend any meetings, the Labor Commissioner is allowed and encouraged to use an alternate form from the Labor Commission to attend a meeting on the Labor Commissioners on behalf, and the alternate will have the same powers as mentioned below.
Labor Commission powers. Powers to release campus-wide statements on behalf of the Labor Commission. Powers to plan, call, and hold meetings with districtors, including but not limited to the Chancellor, CP, EBC, Director of CHES, Director of Risk and Safety Services, Labor Relations Representative, Dean of Students, etc. Power to be supported in tabling, including but not limited to outreach, fundraising, flyering, raising awareness, and visibility for issues connected to labor justice. Power to provide resources to reserve rooms for meetings and events to support students who do work with labor.
Power to support student delegations to labor justice conferences, including but not limited to the Student Labor Organizing Conference, SWAC, United Students Against Sweatshops, USAS National Convention, and the USAS Summer Convention. Power to use and make decisions regarding resources needed for students moving forward, travel, including air travel, and the ability to host labor-related conferences. So it be resolved, the Labor Commission will have its own vocal number to carry out the above aforementioned powers. So that's our bylaw. Does anyone have any questions? Also, we've been working with the SUA president. Who's not here right now on this, so we're familiar with it. And the Labor Commissioner position is in the draft budget that I heard is no longer being presented next week. Questions do we?
Yeah, I can have questions for you all and your comment.
We'll take questions.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Point of information, is that in the drive?
It is, so it's a little bit different. It is hyperlinked on the agenda. So it is.
I showed it last week.
The witness protection hyperlink.
Multiple. The first one is more. Is any entity under SUA allowed to fundraise? Are we allowed to fundraise? Because if you're under SUA, I don't know if SUA is allowed to fundraise. I think by turn, I don't know if Labor Commission is allowed to fundraise. So that's more just a financial question.
I don't have the answer to that in bylaws.
Okay, Vania, do you know? Is any entity under SUA allowed to fundraise?
I'm sorry, can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, I think it also depends on like what, I guess the purpose of the funding, or what it's for. I know that there are some stipulations based on like what you're trying to, more so based on like the purpose of the I think that's the bylaw. But as of now, I don't think there's
you know, like whatever methods that already need to happen.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just double checking.
Yeah.
So I have some more. So maybe I just didn't see this, and I'm going to pull up the agenda right now. How is the labor commissioner hired?
So it would be a position appointed by the Black Student Union.
Okay. Does that follow fair hiring practices as well?
Well, we discussed this, and I said a SOAR board needed to be it was either a SUA or a SOAR board, and it's really important that labor organizing is really deeply tied to organizing for racial justice as well. So it made sense to us that whoever is elected to be a labor commissioner should be someone who's working with BSU as well as whatever other labor.
I don't know. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I know.
Sorry.
My point was,
Okay.
is other boards allowed to say SUA hire this person? Because if they're paying $3,600 from SUA, like that's not what's checking.
Yeah.
Like it's fair hiring. That's all. It's fair hiring act. That's also.
If that's something that we have to answer, but we did have a meeting to hire on these things. So.
Are you hiring for a staff position or a student position?
A student position with intern pay.
So I think the other question is who will the school as in that position, and if there will be anyone who will be CA who will be supervising. So like all of the intern positions are have a sort of officer who oversees their work. So that's not really
That's why it's under the EVP office, which we mentioned in the list. Under the EVP office, although the labor commission has its own powers.
Oh, it is under the EVP office?
Yeah, we said it in there. It's like that, but the EVP does not have power to like change anything or do anything.
So the specific language is that the EVP does not have power over the labor commissioner, or decisions made by the labor commission. The EVP's relationship with the labor commission is to ensure the success of the labor commission by supplying the labor commission with the resources necessary for the powers written below. So more of a facilitation than a direct oversight.
Okay, that's perfect. That all makes complete sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
So I support this. I just have a few concerns and I want us to work together to figure out how we can address those. The first is I know that independence is really important for you all, and I respect the reason why that is, but I'm really concerned about SUA sponsoring something, funding it, having ultimate responsibility for it, but not having any oversight. And I think that essential to kind of our process is the fact that, if we sponsor something, if we're distributing student fees without students having the ability to say yes or no to whether they want this to be something, then we need to have some sort of oversight capacity. And it seems a little weird to me that that there's that kind of like, we're here to support you, but we don't actually get to fulfill that other end of the bargain. And the second thing is that in the bylaw, you set out that the establishment procedure for this bylaw passed is 50% plus 1. I'm pretty sure that the requirement for bylaw passage is 2/3. And finally,
That's for the overall.
all right. And then finally, I'd say that you set specifications on membership, which violates our Constitution, Article 1, Section D, Paragraph 2, which states that we can't set any sort of membership parameters on any SUA-affiliated entity.
Okay, so several responses. First of all, we said that the SUA does not have direct oversight over this because as students who do the work, we know labor justice on this campus.
It specifically said too that these are people who are working with, the union that are working with labor boards. And it's not the SUA is sponsoring things. The only funds that we would be getting are still through the regular methods. You know what I'm saying? So like, if we have something that's in the SUA budget for next year to go to a conference, it would have to be approved by SUA. That conference would have the oversight of Baunia, who would be filling out forms with us like we did last time with travel request forms and all those things. So we would still be going through those same processes. And in terms of oversight, I mean, the Labor Commission itself is that oversight of the Labor Commission's work. So when you think about it, for interns or for officers or whatever, they're doing this work, literally not everything always has to go through the student body. There is transparency that we will be having, obviously. But like we said, we're establishing this for the needs of students who are organizing around labor justice.
And then in terms of the membership, that would just be the foundation of who is part of the Labor Commission, not necessarily a stipulation.
Thank you.
I would put in some additional people on staff if that works for you all too.
Yeah, that's better.
Lee?
Oh, I thought, wasn't Steve added? or somebody over there. Sorry. I'll go then. So, to me, so I totally understand the logic behind placing the BSU as a SOAR or in that position, and it makes a lot of sense considering the connections there. I was just wondering though, so given this is a paid position that has student funds going towards it, why was an election not the first consideration?
It's an election by BSU. So BSU is electing the labor commissioner. Yeah, so it's still in the form of an election. I mean, in the sense of they're getting paid because they're doing the work. You know what I'm saying? So like, especially like their hours would probably be even higher than the hours that are expected for that pay. Likely because if you look at all the powers, that's a lot of work they're going to be doing. So as a labor justice organizing space, we do believe that people should be paid for the labor and work that they're doing.
Did you have any comments?
I apologize. I had somebody in this side of the room and.
Oh, I was on Zoom.
Okay. Yeah.
A quick kind of technical question. My current understanding is that in terms of vocals, SUA has a main one that they do most of their funding requests through. Is it feasible to generate another one? What kind of process or like upkeep would be required with that? I'm not sure if you know about me or if the presenters are aware.
I'm not aware, so I think that would be
How feasible is it to generate a brand new vocal for the commission? Since I think SUA just uses one for most of its funding requests, like the process or upkeep would be a new vocal.
Speak up again. I'm sorry.
So activity codes, global, and line items, those are all kind of one and the same. It's generally like easy, like the process to create one, depending on what's included on each. Did I? Good. Thank you.
Natasha?
So, you all are amazing, so I'm sure you did already, but I'm wondering if you all contacted the other ethnic boards to make sure that they're cool with putting BSU in charge of this?
So we did reach out to other ethnic boards and other like registered boards, and
They're either at capacity or just unable to or whatever, but we're really happy that we're working with BSU and BSU and be elected.
and then in the future, if other ethnic boards also have the capacity or interested in being part of the election process or labor commission, can be an added amendment.
And then I have a question, just in general, what are your motivations to be affiliated in whatever loose way y'all want? But like, what's the motivation to come to SUA specifically for this?
Yeah, so SUA is a space that's supposed to be representative of students across campus and student interests, and obviously one of those should be worker rights and labor justice. So really creating that stronger tie between labor justice and the larger student population on campus.
Additionally, like literally the name of the SUA is a student union assembly. So when we talk about like unions, you know, like collective power, is super important, and it's super important that the work that's being done in solidarity with workers becomes official in terms of the university needs to see that students and workers are working together, especially in times like these, right? Like ASME hasn't gotten their contract in
More than 2 years.
They're almost going on their 5th strike. So if you think about that kind of situation that we're currently in, which is like really important that the university purposefully tries to create this divide between students and workers, so we think it's important to put that in, that students should be working with workers.
Yeah.
As well as just like
Intentionally, institutionally.
yeah, as well as just like staying true to like what the student union assembly says it stands for and all that, and trying to add that or get rid of that divide between like SUA resources and student organizing.
I'll be finished.
Yeah, I just want to touch base on that question. Again, when we talked about the idea is to be able to make sure that, like y'all touched on, that we are representative of all the efforts that's going on campus. Right now, our model in SUA is the college representatives. There's 3 representatives from each college, which means 30 representatives from each college. For like what actual issues are happening on those colleges and what issues are y'all bringing to the table and representing in this space. What issues do y'all ask Zach Kleinman to put on the agenda so that you can start addressing whether it's a lack of food resources on your colleges, what issues are y'all bringing up? We've been seeing time and time again that this representative model is not necessarily working, and so I will be pushing next year for a constitutional change, but for this year, I think it's important that we start to encompass commissions and committees that are actually representing and doing the hands-on work on the ground consistently. WIS is an organization that's consistently doing the work, organizing strikes and making sure to get students out, and actually they're doing a great way of making sure that students are getting that experience of advocacy. So they're doing a really good, kind of like teaching about leadership, what it means to take charge, what it means to be have agency and to fight for what you're passionate about. So I think that not only is this commission something that the SUA should be having in their SUA, I think this is the foundation of building the next generation of SUA leaders. And it first starts here by taking risk and by making sure that we are encompassing the representation of the entire student body. Right?
But we are out of time this agenda item. I have 3 people on staff. Yeah, Dave.
Motion to extend time by, let's see, 5.
Yeah. I have motion to extend time by 5 minutes made by Devon, second by Regina. Are there any objections? Yeah.
Same thing as before, we have a very tight agenda and we're always over.
Alright, we're going to take a vote now. All those in favor of extending time by 5 minutes? I have 21 in favor. 20 in favor. All those opposed? 3 opposed. The motion passes. We have 5 more minutes on this agenda item. Continuing with staff, Shania.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to advocate hard for the creation of this bylaw in this space, and also to, I believe, Steven's point, the creation of its own vocal through SOAR is necessary because as BSU, with our vocals through SOAR, and given that since BSU is electing the labor commissioner, it makes sense for us to have that as part of just to continue that going. Yeah, I think to my knowledge, I'm not 100% sure, so correct me if I'm wrong. Each organization is only allowed 1 vocal member, if I'm not mistaken.
Each RSO?
Yeah. Yeah, each RSO gets 1 vocal member.
I'm not sure if that's a SOAR question.
Well, for SOAR.
I believe it's just 1.
Yeah.
I can double check, I think it's just 1.
Yeah, so I know we only have 1 vocal member, and then since we're the ones that are hiring the person, it makes sense for them to receive the funds through BSU. Also, for those of y'all who may be a little iffy on the creation of this, we as a BSU and the Big 5 at the beginning of the school year, throw back all the way back to November and all those meetings, we brought up how a lot of college representatives aren't aware of what's going on campus, so the creation of this labor commissioner under SUA but through BSU will help bring awareness and bring everyone up to date as to what's going on campus, because I think that not everybody knows everything that's going on. So having this will be a great liaison and a great starting point for everyone to get hit onto what's going on campus. And to find ways to get involved, because some folks, they feel more comfortable sending, hey, what's going on? Some folks actually want to get down with the dirty and I want to help protest, I want to see what's going on, I want to see where I can insert myself. So the creation of this commission will do just that.
Devon?
So more widely to this space, I know there's a lot of skepticism, kind of the previous speaker said. I always believe in a start. I think that's my biggest thing is that I don't believe if you say support AFSCME or strikes or unions, and there's all this hoopla about this bylaw, I think that's kind of why it's confusing. I think by no means this is perfect, but the best part of the bylaws they can change. I think that's one thing that if sometime next year, let's say school starts in September, sometime in February we say let's see what they've done with past bylaws. What needs to change, what needs to go, et cetera, we can do that. This isn't a constitutional amendment, this is a bylaw. Bylaws can change. I think keep an open mind. We can always back that first 6 months of seeing what they've done, and then from that point on, say do we need the changes, right? So I understand the skepticism, but definitely should pass this, right? I will say though, in regards to the EVP not having any power over the Labor Commission, I 100% agree about that. As the EVP, I'll put my stamp of approval on that one. Now, every EVP that comes along will be supportive of this, so I'm not going to be upset at that. No personal. I will ask though, like, is it possible to have the organizing director from my office back at ex officio? Only because we have such connections to system-wide work. Like that's kind of my thing is that we sit on the board of directors for the UC Student Association. Almost every OD at UCSA, so all I can tell you is I can ask the intern. So there's a lot of access to UCSA. I feel like the OD because they organize the issues on campus and they have their own board of directors for UCSA. I would like to request that it be at least ex officio on the Labor Commission just because of access to UCSA. But that's totally up to y'all. I think if anything that I would like to change in there, it'd just be that. But that's, yeah. The non-voting member, but like it's recognized. Can you say the AP's relationship is to ensure success of the Labor Commission? And then you can add on to that, like the campus organizing director under the External Affairs Office has like a non-voting role, non-voting spot on this board. Like something like that. So ex officio is non-voting. You know, but still has that access to that space because of the work they do system-wide. That's my only request to that.
Yeah.
Other than that, I do support this moving forward.
I think it's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I will also remind the states that we are not voting on this week, and so this is a great opportunity to ask questions. As this primarily what this time is for. But thank you for your contribution.
Workers who don't necessarily fall under internal relations or practice against community or whatever, and like unions and other like external entities that are the students.
Yeah, because the unions are also like statewide for all of the workers, and then also since we're going to be involved with these constitutions and special presidents across the U.S., so like a lot of the conventions and conferences and relationships are outside the university, but that doesn't mean that, you know, if people choose in the Labor Commission and if the internal office is supportive, that doesn't mean that they can't be working together as well as supporting each other.
Anna, did you have your hand up? Okay. Okay, we are at the considered item. I have 2 people left on staff. What's that? Okay. David, do you still want to speak?
No, we're out of time.
Okay, do you want to extend time?
No.
Any motion to extend time? Yeah.
Motion to extend time by half. So it's
2.5 minutes? Yeah. I motion to extend time by 2.5 minutes. The motion is second by Ms. Any objections? Yeah.
Same thing as before, and I was on stack, so I'm giving up my own right to speak.
What was that? Yeah, and both of the speakers I have left on staff do not wish to speak. All those, yeah?
I just wanted to mention, like I had a question for them.
Okay. All those in favor of extending time by 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Ask the question.
Yeah.
Point of order, that's not how we do it. I'm sorry. You can't just, I'm sorry, but that's not how it works.
Just one question. Okay, everyone please, hold on, Zach, please.
All those in favor of extending time by 2 minutes? I have 19 in favor, all those opposed? 6 opposed. Virginia?
I just want to know if the proposal through PSU is like a deal breaker for you guys. Like, is I believe that's for fair hiring, and because of the week we have a special dispute of the VR, and that's a rule. So if that works out, like if you guys want to jump into the previous unit, it would be on the VR, so like you want the opportunity to apply for that. Is that a deal breaker?
Yeah. I mean, they're elected by the ESU. The ESU is an amazing organization that is deeply involved in the campus, understands and is in connection with labor organizing groups. And in terms of unfair hiring, I don't know what your specific concerns were, but it's important that whoever's working with the Labor Commission is someone who is also working with the ESU. So there's someone who have experience working with, you know, actually working with those campaigns. It's super important. And it's similar to other positions like all over in terms of like, you know, who appoints who elects. You know, most student governments and they're small, you know, they're the ones who decide who their SUA reps are. What about people who aren't in the, like, I was in Crown Senate, but if I wasn't in Crown Senate, I could have never gotten to SUA. So you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, yeah, you might hear about it, but it's like, that's true with basically everything in terms of access. Like, not everyone's going to know about everything, unfortunately, on this campus. Yeah.
I will remind the speaker to use you all instead of you guys. Okay.
just a quick little, just for the ER thing. Yes, as long as SUA gives the power through the bylaws for an organization to have the power to elect certain representatives, then that's still considered like an SUA elected person, which means that those people can also still be in the ER system and just be covered, just the same way as SUA officers are put in the ER system, the same way that interns, when we select them, are put in the ER system, or the public servant put in the ER system. So what I'm saying is that, yeah, other organizations can do that as long as they have the power in the bylaws or the constitution that says that they can do that. And the advisor would reference those bylaws to, ensure that authority is that.
Makes sense?
I was gonna just say that.
Cameron.
I forgot what I was gonna ask, so just go with it.
And we are out of time again. Thank you all. What was that? I have nobody left on staff.
Great, can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
Come to the May 16th strike, Thursday, 6 to 6, free food all day, and we have strike taxis to get you there. Y'all have really no excuse to not be at the strike line. Workers do everything for you on this campus, drive your buses, clean your buildings, cook your food, so y'all better show up for them the way that they show up for us. It's the 5th strike in 2 years, and that's 2 years too long, so see you there, May 16th.
Thank you all very much. Cool. So, we have on the agenda the Measure 70 discussion, and that Measure 70 is the Career Center endorsement. We had that to the side of discussion before we had quorum. Do I have everyone's attention, Jeff? Thank you. And the idea was brought up that we would continue it because there's a desire expressed to suspend the bylaws once we had quorum. I would be looking right now for a motion about something regarding the agenda so we put that back on there later or something along those lines to suggest a time that we would discuss this. So basically, we've already gone through the Career Center agenda item.
Yeah.
There has been a discussion to revisit it once we've had quorum. Basically, I'm asking the office to suggest one in the form of a motion. Does that make sense? Am I being unclear? I'm sorry if I'm being unclear.
I don't.
Okay.
When did we discuss this also?
What was that? We discussed it.
We were late. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, do I have everyone's attention? Yes. Thank you all. Okay. So we discussed the Career Center agenda item before we had quorum. At that time, there was a desire expressed to suspend the bylaws once we had quorum, which we did not have at that moment, in order to rediscuss it and possibly endorse it. What I am asking from you all is to tell me a time in the form of a motion about when we will discuss that, because we wouldn't as of right now. David?
Motion to add that item at the very end of the agenda, allocate 10 minutes for it. That way, if we all are dying, it's the last thing to get cut.
I have a motion by David to add revisiting Career Center referendum at the end of the agenda and allot 10 minutes, second by Enrique. Are there any objections? Cool. Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next agenda item, which is the SOC adopting conference budget reallocation. Enrique, cool.
So yeah, if y'all remember in the other meeting, I was talking about how we were using the Students of Color Conference money, splitting that 2K, so it was like 4K originally, and then we were moving 2K for I think the bonus trip, and then for my adopting conference in LA, that ended up not working out. It was super disorganized, unfortunately, and I did not feel comfortable sending students out there with not really knowing if there was going to be a conference. So that money is still there, and I'm just asking permission to use, so put 1,000 into programming and use 1,000 in my office for an event that I'm going to pass around a flyer about Southeast Asian deportation. It's a teaching we're having with Unity on Bayan and document student services. I'll pass it around. That and screen printing event. If y'all remember, I did a screen printing event and a few weeks ago. I want to have another one. So it would work like this. So 400 for honorarium for the two speakers coming for the teaching, and then 600 for screen printing. So 400 for the Little Giant Collective and 200 for food. I can write this down if y'all want, but it's just like 3 numbers. So yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know. But I would like to motion to do that. Say that. Move the money.
Motion to. Okay. So I do need to repeat it. Motion to move 2,000 from the docu conference to screen printing.
So there's 2,000 currently in the docu conference, and then I'm just going to take 1,000, put 1,000 in programming, put 1,000 for these two events. So a screen printing workshop and the deportation teaching.
But from the Southeast Asian organizations. Okay. Okay. So I make a motion to put the 2,000 committed to the docu conference. Split it into 2 chunks of 1,000. One of those 1,000 going into our SUA programming line item, and then one of those 1,000 going to both the screen printing event and an event on deportation put on by the Southeast Asian organizations. Made by UK, seconded by Sitlawi. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the motion passes. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to pass around another flyer too for another event coming up. Would be Unity, or no, Paper. Yeah, super cool. Film screening coming up.
Alright, we now have the presentation of individual study recommendations. Get back on it.
Yes. Hi everyone. Sorry for being late, little. And for the last SOFA meeting, we didn't got enough people, so it was changed to a tennis meeting instead, but it was the same. And just like last time, I had a little PowerPoint presentation. And also, thank you all for being there, like, if you go to it. Oh, and also, like, the budgetary amount for each application is in the file. That's extra here. Since we didn't have a lot for like this SOFA, so we decided to like pass on every automation. But for the Delta one, since like most of their funds is like traveling, and as you can see in the budget at the breakdown, so we decided to fund them like 1,100 from SOFA and 2,384.54 from the student organizing travel. And currently we still have 3,900 for the student organizing travel line. Any question about that part?
Currently, like, with this being deducted, or currently, just for time?
Like me for SOFA?
Yeah, so we have like the 3,000 right now, or is that subtracting that?
No, like for SOFA, I mean, after, if we paid out like all the recommended amount, we have 0 left in SOFA.
Okay.
But as that is like, we decided to from Delta, like 2,000 each from the SUA organizing travel line, since like most of their cost is like traveling, like housing, like flight. And like for the student organizing travel line, we still have like about 4 grand. Any questions? Please take a look down the budget breakdown. That is in the file. And also please take back this information to our place and discuss, so we can make a decision next week. Any questions?
I just had a quick question as to like the reasoning behind planning 450 versus the full 600 for years. I
just was wondering, I wasn't there for some of them, like obviously, like what their presentation was about.
I mean, actually, like.
Or I can message you, or I can email you like personally if that's easier.
Yeah, sure. I can summarize the minutes I have. I like to set about it for me. I can quickly summarize for you what the PFC presentation was.
I can check.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, the minutes will also be shared like in the files that share.
Okay. Thank you.
Emma?
I just have a question why the Delta Sigma Theta sorority is being funded the full amount when all of the other orgs are being funded like significantly less than the full amount, and also yeah, like there's so much less money. So it seems like if we were going to like equally like be more equitable between things, that we would fund the higher proportions of some of them, or like all of them we fund similar proportions.
We also like the first reason is like we decided to kind of like half fund every single organization, and then we found out for the Delta line, like most of our cost is like traveling. So we found out like maybe we can also use the budget from the student organizing travel line, which we still have a lot left. So that's why we decided to fund like only $1 from SOFA, since we still have like $1 left after we fund all other organizations.
Yeah, okay.
Did I answer your question?
Can I ask like a follow-up to that?
Yeah.
My point is that like we still funded 1,000 from SOFA when we funded them. We already funded them the 2,384.54 cents from the student organizing travel. If we're funding them from the student organizing travel, we should just fund them from the student organizing travel and not add this other $1,000 or add maybe a little bit and then delineate the rest of it to upping the amount that the other orgs get. Because it doesn't make sense to give like them all of this student organizing travel funds and then on top of it add a bunch of SOFA funds that we could be giving to other organizations. Especially because sorority organizations generally have like the sorority funds that they can also pull from, and also they have their own senate that they go to. I don't know like a ton about that fundraising thing, but I do know that there are like more resources they can go to than like probably these smaller events.
I have a question for you, I guess.
Wait, asking is that?
No, like a point of something.
Oh, information.
Do we have 3,500 in the student travel?
We have 3,957. That means.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, all right. So I'm the vice president of the Student Data Sorority Incorporated, and like unlike most sorority organizations on campus, ours is very different because we have our national headquarters that we answer to, and our organization, like our sorority, is like very specific and like there's other rules and restrictions, and we don't have sorority funds to pull from. Hence why we're coming to the school to ask. Our sorority, we give back. We're an international sorority. You can look us up. We've been around on campus since April 30th, 1989. We were the second Greek organization on this campus, the first sorority on this campus. And we've been putting in work like across all spaces, like in SUA, E Squared, ABC, BSU, like every space imaginable that's for people of color, like someone from my organization, from my chapter specifically, has put in work, which is why it's like different than other organizations. And also like for us, like once we graduate, like the work continues, which is why it's like so important for us to go to this national convention so we can like cater to the UCSC community, more specifically like the Black community and the Black students, and increase awareness about Blackness across this campus.
Eugene?
Sorry, I may have missed this, but where are they going to?
New Orleans.
And then I had a question about the last one about the Hermanos Unidos. Why is that weird?
Hermanos Unidos or Metro?
Metro, sorry, I can't see. Why are they getting that much? just 341, 360.
Give me a second.
I'm looking at it.
No, exactly. It was because they had some other line item that ended in 58 cents, and so we were like,
Yeah.
Oh, was your question about the 58 cents?
Yeah.
You can?
Oh, yeah. Then it was
Oh yeah, like if you go to their budget breakdown, which is also in cloud, you can see theirs has a specific line item which is costing 58 cents. That's why we decided to make 2,058 cents to cover that line item.
it was half the cost of the food plus 58 cents.
And then also, may I ask another question on that?
Yeah.
And then why not 500 for her?
What was that?
Why not the extra $5 to make it 500 for her?
For Hermanos Unidos, that was, again, that was half of what they were asking for exactly. You can recommend $5 and then we, when we vote on this.
And also, like, just be aware, this is just a recommendation instead of like a decision. So y'all can like add anything y'all can want.
Anything?
Yeah, no, I saw that dimension, it looks really great. But I still think that if we're funding like 2,384 cents from student organizing travel, I don't feel that comfortable giving the out, I guess. Yeah. How much would we have left?
Yeah.
If we were to fund everyone?
I mean, if we fund everyone that much, we will have zero. So let's bring it.
And there's going to be another meeting.
No, there's no more.
Oh, okay.
That was the last one.
All of them, right?
Yeah, that's why we decided to bring
all
it.
of them.
Yeah.
Natasha?
I guess I'm wondering if we can fund Delta Sigma Beta exclusively from student organizing travel since they are traveling so far, and then replace that money and fully fund the other two. But I didn't reserve my right to make motions.
We're not making motions this week.
Oh, good.
We're just looking at that.
Oh, then is this theoretically
But
possible?
that's something that you can suggest that the space doing. You can suggest that other people talk about their spaces about doing. And not say that you can make a motion about suggestions.
That's a recommendation. Yeah, but we're making motions for like next.
So, we have about 2 more minutes on this agenda item. I don't have anybody on staff. If no one wants to speak, we just move on.
I think just really quickly, I didn't really hear any of this, but I just also just want to people to check their biases towards anything that's Greek life related. I think there's still a lot of stigmas around Greek life. I think it just be important to just check it every now and then. Because I also reminded that it's also black Oregon campus. One of two black sororities on campus. So I mean, there's a lot of intersectionality within Greek life. I just want people to check that. I think I think the majority of folks' questions and concerns that were raised are valid and they're valid. Just also make sure that it's not because it's a Greek org that you're being this concerned about it, right? I think there's a lot of animosity or stigma around it. I think folks just want to check that in general. Overall, I really do appreciate everyone's comments and concerns and questions.
Yes, just going off that. If you want to know about my organization, I can go on and on and on and on. You can also look on our website, deltasigmatheta.org, or just Google the sorority and you can see all the work that we put in the community since we were created in 1913 until today. You can see where Delta women are in the world, and we're also part of a bigger Greek organization called the National Panhellenic Council, which is a combination of the Divine Nine organizations, which all do the same thing. Like a previous speaker mentioned earlier, we are one of the 2 only Black Greek organizations on this campus that are putting the work in the community, both at a collegiate level, alumni level, so once we graduate, going into high schools, elementary schools. But again, if you have any questions about our organization, I'm more than free to answer any questions after the meeting, via email, whichever.
We are out of time on this agenda item. I have nobody on staff.
So since I saw a lot of y'all have questions, but they're not really decided on them. So if y'all have a lot of questions, please next time come to SOFA. It's like really, it's just like last one, there were only like 6 people showed up, including me.
There's always food.
So, just come next time. Thank you.
Guys, can we not make it at the same time as Vision Committee next time? That would be super.
Okay. We'll be moving on. The next agenda item, which is the resolution in opposition to the proposed affiliation deal between UCSF and Dignity Health. That is being put up on the screen now. It's hyperlinked in the agenda. David?
Yeah, all right. So this was fun. This is obviously a long resolution. It's 6 pages long. I tried to cut it, but just shit wasn't getting cut, and I want to show the regions why this is a bunch of ridiculous bullshit and a violation of the U.S. Constitution, the state constitution of California, and the UC's policies on non-discrimination. So I'm going to, instead of reading this out, which I don't think is really going to serve anyone, I'm going to read the summary that I prepared.
David, I'm sorry, in accordance with the bylaws, in order to present the resolution, you need to read it out.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, read the enacting clauses. Not all the whereas.
Thank you.
All right. So I was going to read the resolves anyway, since I think that they're they're my favorite part. But I'll review the whereases and kind of like go over what this does. So the current situation is that UCSF does not have sufficient facilities. Basically, they have more medical equipment and doctors than they have facilities, so they want to expand their access to hospital space. They're seeking to partner with a Catholic hospital chain, Dignity Health. The problem with Dignity Health is that because they're a Catholic hospital chain, they limit access to reproductive health care and have a history of discrimination against persons with disabilities and transgender folks. UCSF doctors working at Dignity Health hospitals would be curtailed by these limitations. The partnership deal, I believe, is set for consideration at the May 14th meeting. Thus, I will be asking the body for immediate passage and suspending the bylaws requiring us to wait a week. I will also mention that I exchanged quite a few texts with UCSF's Director of Local and State Government Relations, who I have a prior relationship with, and did not receive in any way a satisfactory answer based on my experience working with this woman. This was not her response, this was her auto-generated admin response. And she sent me directly to the UCSF's FAQ on the matter, which, as you'll see, is a bunch of bullshit. So the reso, I start by reviewing the UC Regents, the UC and UCSF's policies on non-discrimination, which all talk about gender identity, gender, sex, and all of those things are stuff that the Catholic Church's hospitals discriminate against. I review the Regent's policies on student involvement in government, which make it clear that we play an important role in this process and reminds them of how important it is for them to listen to us. I review that the state legislature, governor, President Napolitano are all on the record supporting reproductive rights. I examined multiple sources that explain how this affiliation deal will limit reproductive rights and how UCSF's claims to the contrary are deceptive at best. I examined 5 lawsuits which have either already been decided or are taking place right now, which were made against Dignity Health for issues ranging from discrimination against transgender folks to discrimination against persons with disabilities to falsifying records before state audit, which you would think would be a little bit of an issue. Off the top of my head, I know that they paid out damages of at least $7 million, which is not insignificant. And these were just the ones that I could find at 11:30 last night doing some quick Googling. I examined the legal issues, including the fact that the ACLU has basically threatened to sue, and I'll remind you all that if the UC gets sued by the ACLU, ultimately it's our tuition that pays for the legal defenses involved. I also review that the California State Constitution mandates that the UC be independent of sectarian influence. This is obviously a violation of the California State Constitution. So moving straight into the resolution, or the enacting clauses of the resolution, if I can find it. Let me see. There. So you'll also note that every single whereas is footnoted, so this is properly sourced. I also sought the feedback of our officers. And I'd also just like to point out, just in case anyone is questioning whether this is something that we actually need to vote on tonight, non-Catholic sponsored hospitals at Dignity Health are not subject to ethical and religious directives, but they must conform to Dignity Health's statement of common values. The implications of this statement are clear. According to reporting from the LA Times, quote, ethics committees wouldn't approve terminating a pregnancy even when the mother was facing death, as long as a fetal heartbeat could be discerned. One doctor reported pleading for permission to do so for a pregnant woman whose condition was so septic, her temperature has shot up to 106 degrees. The ethics committee refused to allow him to terminate the pregnancy, even though this woman, quote, is dying before our eyes. The fetus died, but she survived after spending 10 days in intensive care. So before I get into the results, I just want to observe that the fact that my previous relationship with the Director of Government Relations was she was Assistant District Director for the Assembly member that I did an internship for. When I was an intern, the #1 issue I worked on was addressing all of the freaked out letters from constituents about after Trump was elected, worried that there would be a massive rollback of reproductive rights. And I remember at the end of my internship, she thanked me for my work on that. So I just kind of think it's interesting how this has all come full circle. So, resolved. The Student Union Assembly of UC Santa Cruz declares itself in opposition to the proposed affiliation deal between UCSF and Dignity Health, set to be considered during the May 14th to 16th meeting of the UC Regents. Resolved, the Student Union Assembly of UC Santa Cruz considers the proposed affiliation deal a violation of its policy on discrimination, harassment, and affirmative action in the workplace, and a violation of Regents Policy 4400. Resolved, the Student Union Assembly of UC Santa Cruz considers the statements made by UCSF in their FAQ entitled FAQ UCSF Affiliation with Dignity Health to be misleading as it fails to account for the realities of Dignity Health's policies and the history of harm done to patients. Resolved, the Student Union Assembly of UC Santa Cruz calls on the UC Regents to reject the proposed deal and affirm their commitment to the University of California's policy on discrimination, harassment, and affirmative action in the workplace and Regents Policy 4400. Resolved, the Student Union Assembly of UC Santa Cruz, resolved the Student Union Assembly of UC Santa Cruz calls on the UC Regents, when considering the resolution, calls on the UC Regents to, when considering this resolution, affirm their commitment to student involvement in governance. Resolved, the Student Union Assembly of UC Santa Cruz calls on the state legislature and governor to deliver on their promise of the California Dream and adequately fund UCSF to address the treatment shortage. Resolved, the Student Union Assembly of UC Santa Cruz calls on the UC Regents and President Janet Napolitano to express their support for the UC Santa Cruz, for the Student Union Assembly of UC Santa Cruz's call for the state legislature and governor to act to deliver on the promise of the California Dream and adequately fund UCSF to address the treatment space shortage. Resolved that the Office of the Vice President of External Affairs of the Student Union Assembly of UC Santa Cruz transmits copies of this resolution to Regent Sherry L. Lansing, Regent George Kiefer, the UC Regents as a whole, President Janet Napolitano, Governor Gavin Newsom, President Pro Tem Tony G. Atkins, Speaker Assemblymember Tony Rendon, Senator Bill Monning, Assemblymember Mark Stone, and the executive officers of the UC Student Association. Again, I think that this is urgent. We won't, if we pass this at the next meeting, we won't really have time to send it out before the Regents meeting. And I think that the symbolic importance of this coming up at the Regents meeting next week, which will be held at UCSF, cannot be understated. This is a basic question of moral values, and I urge the Assembly to vote to approve this immediately.
I 100% support this resolution. We brought this up to Napolitano in our meeting at the Council of Student Body Presidents last week, and the answer that she gave was more so that if they do approve it, that they'll be looking to provide resources for like trans students and like non-binary students. But ultimately, even if you provide like resources for them, it's still like a moral, code kind of thing. So I want to say two things. Number one, I'm in support of this resolution, and I think that we should pass it tonight. Number two, I also want to bring awareness to the fact that there have been multiple complaints to the SUA that we suspend the bylaws way too much, and that we are supposed to go back to the students and talk to them. So I do want to bring that up, but I still think that because of the particular quickness and kind of like seriousness of this specific resolution, that it should be passed tonight. I just want to make that aware that we should not be suspended bylaws just like that. But I think this is one of those times that we should.
Cameron, I got you on staff. David, you please.
Yeah, just a quick response. I agree that we do suspend bylaws too much. However, I'd just like to ask the rhetorical question: does anyone think that their space would actually object to this in any way?
Yeah, can I just motion to suspend bylaws?
I can get you on staff. Okay, Regina?
Actually, I'm going to make a motion. I really support this, and I appreciate all the work that has been done on this. So I motion to suspend bylaw
C11AI. Is that it, right?
Yeah. I have a motion by Regina to suspend bylaw C11AI, second by Layton. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the bylaw is suspended for the remainder of this agenda item. Chase?
Has UCSF made a statement yet?
Sorry.
Has UCSF made a statement?
They have an extensive FAQ, which is questionable at best. And I'm also going to continue to try to reach out to the government relations director and get a more closed doors, honest answer.
Okay, sorry, I have a few questions. So my first question, you were saying something about the Catholic Church. Can you elaborate on that? Because I didn't hear you.
Yeah. So let me just get to the point in where I directly address this. So according to UCSF's FAQ, quote, Catholic hospitals are subject to the ethical and religious directives, ERD, of the Catholic Church, which completely ban contraceptives, abortions, that kind of thing. Non-Catholic sponsored hospitals at Dignity Health are not subject to these, but they must conform to the Dignity Health Statement of Common Values, which precludes in vitro fertilization, most abortions, and physician-assisted suicide within these hospitals.
Perfect, that answers so many questions. And then also, did you, I know you mentioned in your results that the executive office of the UCSA, do you know what UCSA stance is on this? I couldn't ask the UCSA right now.
I don't.
UCSA stance on this issue?
I don't believe we've talked about this issue anytime recently. We only meet once a month, so this was on our agenda anytime recently. So I mean, we're hopefully going to reach this meeting next week. We're trying to take 2 bands, so if you want to go and speak in public comment, that is somewhat possible. We're doing the details right now. That was not brought to UCSA at all. I'm glad you brought it up. You can email the board directors if you want to. I'll give you their email.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yeah, of
Sure,
course.
sir. And just also that the council of presidents are in support of going against this.
In
Go
support
on.
of
Go.
What
So
are
in
the-
support of the message of the
Support the
resolution?
message.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stephanie?
Motion to adopt the resolution in opposition to the proposed affiliation deal between UCSF and Dignity Health.
I have a motion by Stefan to adopt the resolution in opposition to the proposed affiliation deal between UCSF and Dignity Health. Second by Cameron. Are there any objections?
This is so tiny. I'm so sorry, but once we pass this, we won't be able to amend it. Can you just? I made 2 recommendations on the words. It's just misspelled. Alleges.
I think I addressed both of them.
Yeah. You have.
All right.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. So
You withdraw your
yes, I
objection?
do.
Do we have any objections on the table? Seeing none, the motion passes and we've adopted this resolution. David, thank you for your work on this. Next on the agenda is, yes, David, you have the floor. However, this is not a presenting time, this is a voting time. So if you want to make a comment briefly, I am assuming that there's nothing more to present.
The only comment is that after the feedback I received before last week's meeting, I added something which allows us to have a working doc so that if there's a last minute presentation, as long as you put it in an accessible format on that working doc, which will be publicly available, then you can make the presentation so that addresses the concerns about last minute presentations. This has been available for the mandated 2-week period. And other than that, it's the same thing I presented last time.
So this requires a 2/3 majority to pass. Stephen?
Just make the motion to amend the SUA bylaws to include section C8A2 and section C19 as stipulated in the proposal.
I have a motion by Stephen to adopt the bylaws to include section C8A2 and section C19 to reflect the changes in this document, seconded by Anna. Are there any objections? Seeing no objections, it does need 2/3. Who objects then? It's unanimous. So we don't need to. So if there's, okay, that's my understanding.
Information.
So I feel that's what we got to pass. It makes sense. Steph?
I can just provide a little bit of clarification. One of the interesting things about the SUA is that we actually only fall under Robert's Rules of Order as a mechanism for, doing our meetings when we don't have ultimate consensus. Our space is endowed by the Constitution with the authority to make decisions by consensus without having to rely on points or motions or anything of that nature to be completely honest. So it's kind of a matter of interpretation, but it's totally within bounds of consensus.
Thank you very much. I am not seeing any, thank you. I'm not seeing any objections on the table, and therefore this amendment to the bylaws is enacted. I'll be updating the bylaws shortly to reflect the change.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, we're awesome. Where the zone is.
Yeah, the meeting is not over. Cool. So, last week on Thursday we had an emergency meeting. We had less than half a quorum, which was fun. I have shared with you all documents relating to that meeting. This is, whoops, I am this is the language of the referendum. And then in the folder there should also be, in the minutes from the emergency meeting, is notes that Ishan and I edited about what information was presented. I can answer or attempt to answer any questions that you all have regarding it. And if not, I'd be looking for a vote. I also included a lot of information recently in the folder that I recently got from a bus driver who is not necessarily opposed to this referendum. Is this like? Yes, there we go. But thinks that it does not address the larger conversation we need to have about campus transit. You all may remember him. His name is Evan Marks. He came to present here in the third quarter. And I have some, if you all are interested in seeing kind of some of the opposition documents before making a decision, you can do that as well. Dave?
Just so I reached out to the TAPS presenter. They just got back to me about 30 minutes ago, so I haven't had a chance with everything that's going on to address it, but they conducted a thorough analysis of all of his claims and basically refuted every single one of them. The numbers underlying most of his calculations are wrong. I can email that to you, Zach, immediately, but my takeaway from it was that although Kevin raised some very serious issues that we should consider, my inkling was to consider them with quite a bit of weight, but after seeing a thorough analysis that was done over time, that refutes basically every claim he made, I'm a lot more inclined to endorse this. And I'll share it as soon as I can figure out how.
So when the TAPS presenters came into the MSG space to present for endorsement to us, I asked them several questions that have been brought up in Kevin's previous presentation to us, just because I wanted answers about the kind of things that he was talking about. And part of what was kind of enlightened to me was not necessarily, I didn't get the impression that they felt that he was like lying or like making things up, but that what he's saying is really important, and the fact that like they're not paying their drivers enough is like incredibly valid and important. But the fact of the matter is, if we keep saying like, no, we're putting this off, no, we're putting this off, the people who are going to be harmed by it is us as well, is students, especially students who need those buses to get around campus. And yes, like not giving them that money might put more pressure on them, but it also might not. You know, they may just cut more buses. They may not even pay any mind to the wages of like bus drivers. So I feel like in this situation, it's like kind of like there's more conversation to be had, but I don't necessarily think that not doing this is the best like idea, because especially like students with disabilities and students who have really hard time getting around this campus, it's not fair to them to say like, well, we're prioritizing like this other thing because we want to like look more into it while you can't get to your class that you're paying so much money to get to. You know, so it's just, to me it feels like there's no good situation here, but we can't just keep saying like, no, we're not going to have more buses and just like make them cut more buses. And like, that's not okay. Like, that's not an okay thing to do to students either. So, I mean, I don't know, I'm sure that people have like other opinions about this, but I think that that's an ongoing conversation, something that needs to be worked on separate from just not giving students buses. If that makes sense. It was long, sorry.
I don't think you hate.
My name is Will, and I too am very critical about this proposition like she is, and a few of the other people here. And I just want to say that we have the most expensive transit fee in like all these seats, $111. And despite that not much amount of money, a third of the loop buses that were originally running a third of the buses are only remaining compared to what was there like a few years ago. And even though like, you know, they're saying they're trying to save money, the Metro rides tend to be more expensive, around $1.75 per ride, compared to the loop buses, which are 65 cents per ride. So my problem with this whole transportation fee thing is that, you know, it's probably, you know, not going into something that's actually going to bring out actually the best results we hope for. And not to mention, Metro has been criticized for being a less efficient way to get students moving on campus. That, you know, compared to the loop buses, it's not as, you know, fit. It's not as fit to be able to run around using compared to the loop buses. So it's not just about, and it's not just about rights, of course, rights are important. It's about the fact that this does not necessarily mean that we're going to get our money's worth out. And another thing I want to mention that I don't want to forget about is one of the bus drivers, we had a bus driver come into a WISC meeting and say that some of these, bus drivers are only, advertising the 73 proposition because they're being forced to do so, and that if they don't follow along with this, that they might get fired. But there's obviously, no guarantee that they will actually keep their jobs concerning the administration's history of dishonesty and false promises. So I really suggest that we actually, come up with a much better idea that allows us to get better access for transportation and make sure that workers' rights are not good in the process. And it's something that we can all get our money's worth of. Because what we were dealing here is the worst of 3 worlds. And ideally, it should be the best of 3.
Thank you. One note is, according to the information I have, the loop is $1.11 per guy as opposed to 65 cents, but still cheaper than the Metro, which is $1.60 as opposed to about $1.10. But that's according to the information I have.
But it's still more expensive.
It's still more expensive. Yeah.
Ideally, we want the loop transit, not like, whatever will even happen that, that hasn't been given because of that good service. There's not, and by the way, why do you need good service? I want to clarify. This is
I'm
not
going to ask you that we put on staff if there's more that you would like to say. Would you like me to put you on staff?
Staff?
Yeah, I will list the people in order for them to talk.
Definitely.
Okay, I'll be put you on there. Diego?
Yeah, so I spent 12 months immersing myself in transportation policy for TAPS and Metro the past year. I did not like it. It was not, I enjoyed the work itself, but like just dealing with that transportation policy and all that good stuff was kind of tiresome. Nonetheless, they tried to run a fee measure. Students, it failed because folks didn't turn out enough. They didn't reach the 25% threshold. I supported the measure last year, and a lot of folks say they're not going to cut sources, or going to cut buses, all that good stuff. First week of spring quarter, they sent a very unfortunate email saying we're cutting sources back to campus. So yes, all the issues that are raised are very valid. I will not contest them. However, what folks said that buses would not be cut, resources would not be cut from campus transportation, they were. There was an email sent to all of us on this campus saying they were the first week back to school this quarter. So I don't want to take a second risk. I didn't risk it. I voted yes, and I'm glad I did. And then Miami had a lot of faults last year. They had a deficit. They said that the EBC office wasn't going to take care of it. The EBC office did take care of it. So yes, TAPS has their faults, and some of them they really do have issues. Nonetheless, buses were still cut on this campus. That is my biggest priority. It's the fact that that happen again. So they were willing to send an email to us the first week of this quarter saying they cut them. So I wouldn't take a risk to let that happen again next year. It's not a gambling game I'm willing to risk because there are a lot of students who need to get around this campus, whether it's through Metro or Loop, and we're risking them to that. I feel we serve the students, and I feel that's what we should be doing as this body. So I think there's a lot of issues with TAPS themselves, structurally, budgetary. I stand by it. I worked with you for 12 months. However, to not support this, or at least not put SUA behind it, I think it would be very unfortunate in my opinion. They cut the buses. We're here for students first. We have to buy our duty spaces. And I'm sure the majority of our spaces will tell us to support this. So I'm definitely in support of this, and we really need to move forward.
Cameron?
I reserve my right to make a motion. We're the student union assembly, so we serve students first. And if this doesn't pass, then students are going to be hurt by it. I want to make a few things clear first, though, that this would not have passed last year if we had the voter turnout. And that needs to be clear. Like, we have 56%, and you need 2/3. And in addition to that, we didn't even have 25% threshold for it to be valid. So we need to be like campaigning getting this done because we need these buses. Yeah, there's problems with TAPS, but we need to fix those in addition to getting these passed. And the reason our transportation fee is so much more expensive than other schools is because you compare us to, say, a school like UCLA, it's much more metropolitan, and they're subsidized by all these government grants because they're in a big city. UC Santa Cruz is way out of the way from Santa Cruz, and Santa Cruz is a smaller city. And with that, I would like to motion to endorse this referendum.
I have a motion by Cameron to endorse Measure 73, which is the tax fee increase referendum, second by David. So I'm sorry, we got ahead of ourselves. We cannot endorse it because it was, no, it was presented last week, I'm getting confused. Okay, are there any objections? Yeah, objection, but I would guess the objection.
I would just like for us to know this. So.
Okay. Okay.
One more conversation on this.
Okay. So because we had an objection, I'm now opening up a new stack. I had some people up on that, like I'm gonna just move y'all over, so we don't go through all that. You are next.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay. So I just have some concerns about this. Like, how are we going to verify that they're not going to cut other buses? Because when we came back in the fall, they were like, I was under the suspicion that the night owl was going to be running. So it was like a Friday night, I'm on campus studying. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, all right, cool, I still got time. And then I found out like there was no night owl. So like, given that they were operating technically in a deficit last year with the night owl, and then they took it away this year, that's definitely a concern. Also, like, I'm advocating for it because, I mean, I've been here for 4 years, so like, I've seen with the 12, like, there used to be a 12, there was like the creation of the 22, like, there was so many more bus routes and so many more bus times available. The loop was running more constantly, and like, it wasn't like jam-packed, and it wasn't packed with like sardines. So I would say definitely would endorse this.
I just had a question. Didn't they say previously that this is the second time they tried to pass this fee, and if it doesn't pass this time, it's not going to be proposed again?
So at the meeting on Thursday, I didn't hear anything about it, whether it would be proposed or not again. So, however, it is a little bit of a different fee than it was last year, and that's in these notes that are going to be hyperlinked on the agenda and under the last Thursday's meeting minutes. Basically, last year's referendum was to get them out of a deficit. This year is to build up kind of a rainy day fund, kind of like a reserve of money to deal with, because every year, right, it's the same amount of money that goes to them from the fee, but every year, because of inflation, that money goes short, like less far, right? So it's to build up a reserve to do stuff in the future, as if they got out of their deficit from the university. So it's a little bit different, but it's still money towards that.
So is this like sorry, I didn't go through everything, but like, if the student body rejects this proposal, will there be another, can they change the language and then re-propose this fee?
I mean, yes, they can. I don't think there's anything, unless you know something that I don't, about not being able to present it again. However, I don't know if they would or not. SUA?
I motion to call the question.
I have a motion to call to question. Just so y'all are clear, endorsement, I should have defined this, is basically saying that, like, we're giving it a rubber stamp of approval. We're saying, we previously voted to sponsor this, and that was we wanted it on the ballot. This is different. This is saying we think it should pass. We think students should vote for it, and that we are representing the undergraduate student body in our decisions, right? So we're saying, on behalf of undergraduate students should vote for this. I have a motion to call to question by Eli. Is that a second?
Yep.
Second by David. Calling to question is we're stopping discussion and we're moving directly into a vote. This requires 2/3 majority to pass. Any objections? Moving directly into a vote and stopping discussion. I have 4 people on 3 people on site. Yes.
I want to say that we should also try to consider an alternative to proposition 7.
I'm really sorry. So right now we're in the voting process. So this is limited to voting members. We really appreciate your comments. But I believe we heard them before as well. If we continue debate, I will call on you again. Thank you so much. Any objections to calling the question? Yes. All right. Do you care to state your objection? Okay. We're now voting on a vote. This is a vote to vote. So if you're in favor of voting right now, please raise your hand or clap it. I count 22. 22 in favor, all those opposed to going directly to a vote? 0. Okay. Now, all those in favor of endorsing, giving it that double stamp of approval on behalf of undergraduate students? I have 22 in favor, all those opposed? Any case that?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Seeing none opposed, the motion passes. We've endorsed absent measures, hopefully. Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. We still have quorum. Yes. Quorum is, as of right now, 22.
Motion to adjourn for 4 people leaving with this one.
Second. I want to put the agenda.
One thing.
Okay. So, y'all, we haven't gone anywhere yet. This is what we would have left is we have a vote on fossil fuel UC and we have revisiting the career center.
Motion to approve,
okay.
the fossil fuel.
Okay. Okay. We have a motion on the table. I need to go through the process with that. Thank you all for bearing with me. I'm just quickly making sure that we do have more. I'm pretty sure we have more. Yeah, we do have one. Okay. So I have a motion to adjourn. Is that a second?
No.
Second by Enrique.
Object.
Karen, do you care to say your objection?
Because I did all this work with Fossil for UC and I want their resolution to get passed. They put in a lot of work. Many of you go to Regents meeting, not this one, but the next one, first of all. There should be no objection to the resolution. It's pretty no-brainer. Just get it done and then we can adjourn.
Okay. All those in favor of adjourning now, this requires a 2/3 majority. Adjourning is what you need in the meeting. 1 in favor, all those opposed? Opposed, the motion, 17 opposed, the motion doesn't pass. We're going into the fossil fuel UC. Let me pull up the resolution language. Okay. Cameron.
Motion to adopt the resolution.
This requires a 2/3 majority vote. I have a motion to adopt the resolution by Cameron, second by Regina. Are there any objections to, to adopting the resolution that's highlighted in the agenda? Seeing no objections, the motion passes. We're now moving into the Career Center revisiting. This is the time where if y'all want to lead a motion to adjourn, that can be brought up. Yeah, Devon.
Motion to table that to next week.
Okay. I have a motion to table the Career Center. Oh, there goes my pen. Revisiting the Career Center agenda item until next week. Made by Devon, seconded by Enrique. All those any objections to the motion of tabling revisiting the Career Center endorsement of the Seeing no objections, the motion passes. And we'll be tabling their agenda next week. Do you have a closing remark?
No.
Okay. We don't need a motion to adjourn because there's nothing more on the agenda. Actually, if you want to skip the closing remarks, my bad.
Motion to skip closing.
Second.
Motion to skip closing remarks made by Shania, seconded by Devon. Y'all are not done. Cool. We skip other stuff. I don't think we need to. It's just kind of the focus away. Alright. All those. Any objections to skipping closing remarks? Seeing no objections, the meeting is adjourned at 10:22 p.m. Have a good night, you all. Thank you for
Please
staying
help
for the
put the chair back.